You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk, each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast. Also available on iTunes.
Good morning, it's the Workers' Beat. I'm Gene Lantz. 972-647-1893 is the number here. They always love it when you call. Did you know that Walmart was on strike? Isn't that something? The first strike in Walmart history in America, in the United States. It's got summer all excited.
I'm excited.
And everybody's excited across the country. Now, we're going to have a meeting to discuss strike support or whatever we can do about it locally. That meeting will be in DeSoto at 1311 East Center Park Boulevard. And that's at 7:30 in the morning on Tuesday. Is that right, Bonnie? No, 7:45 in the morning on Tuesday, October the 9th. If you're interested in supporting the employees at Walmart, and I hope you are because it's critical, the employees at Walmart will have a meeting at 7:45 a.m. in DeSoto at 1311 East Center Park Boulevard. As strikes and protests against Walmart expand nationwide, we want to keep our Dallas community informed on events taking place in our neighborhoods. Please come to support Walmart Associates next Tuesday, October 9th, 7:45 a.m., as we call for an end to Walmart's attempts to silence and retaliate against workers who speak out. Please contact Kevin Blair for more information. And here comes Kevin Blair's his cell phone. It's 859-322-8196. That's 859-322-8196. I have no advanced information as to what will happen at this meeting, but I do know that it's exciting what's going on. There are warehouse workers that have been on strike for a couple of weeks. I think they settled. And then in California, a whole bunch of Walmart stores, people have walked out. What are we going to do locally? I don't know. But you'll find out at 7:45 in the morning on Tuesday if you come to 1311 East Center Park Boulevard in DeSoto. And they want you to come. Now, we have a caller already. Let's put him on. Good morning, Cruz. Thanks for calling KNON.
You'll find out at 7:45 in the morning on Tuesday.
We can hear something, Cruz, but we can't hear you. Cruz, are you on the line? No. Well, we lost him. Cruz, call again. 972-647-1893. Love to have you. But we got Kenneth Williams here today, an activist with Move On who's doing a bunch of voter registration. Kenneth, do you think it's important what you're doing?
I think it's absolutely important at this time. This election is going to pretty much decide how the next generation is going to live. It's critical, and we need to get involved and we need to take part.
When you say this election is going to decide how people are going to live in the future, what do you mean?
Well, what I'm talking about is when you look at our priorities, we can either decide that we're going to invest in educating the next generation, that we're going to invest in our infrastructure and try to rebuild it, that we're going to take care of people in terms of health care, or we can decide we want to give deeper and deeper tax cuts to people who are already wealthy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the basic choice we're looking at.
Okay.
And if we don't see the re-election of the president, I'm afraid we will really slide toward just taking care of the people who are already quite wealthy.
Now, Cruz is back on the phone. Put him on. Good morning, Cruz. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Gene. How are you?
Glad to hear from you, brother.
I don't know. That depends. Listen. Workers beat. I'm sure you've heard of this topic before, and it's not a new one. And I'm advocating for a worker, an American citizen that's trapped in Mexico. And I've been advocating for the last 4 months now. And it seems like people in this city does not even care about their own people.
Is that right?
It's not that he's a black man. He's just a American citizen. I don't care what color he is, an American citizen who is trapped in Mexico, but no one's talking about it. Everybody's talking about how political everything is or whatever, but yet I can't get people to understand how sensitive this issue is, because this could happen to my son, your son, could happen to me or you. And if it happened to me, I would be blazing upset that no one cared enough to try to find out why I'm still sitting in this Mexican prison for just doing my job. I've heard people call in, even on the next other segment, and say, well, what happened to the truck driver, the owner of the truck driving company? Well, it went bankrupt. Yeah. The guy went bankrupt for whatever reason. But that still has nothing to do with an American citizen being held hostage.
Just a minute, Cruz. Bonnie wants to ask you. Bonnie wants to ask you something.
Cruz, I gotta tell you, it's not true that people don't care. I'm very aware of the situation and have talked to Reverend Wright about it multiple times. But you know, it is what it is. It's a political thing with Mexico. And that's something that we have to, it is what it is. We have to tread lightly on that subject at this point with Mexico. I mean, they're in an uproar. Our country's in flux right now. He will get out and he will be exonerated. It's just going to take some time. But please understand, there are lots and lots of people out there who do care, are interested, and are talking about it. Okay?
Well, Bonnie, can I ask you, Kristen, why is it that there's thousands, probably even millions of Hispanics or even foreign folks from other countries that are in our country right now that commit crimes? We deport them. We don't hold them. We don't make them pay
Our laws
fines.
are different.
But yet when it comes down to an American citizen, we can always say how political things are. What happens if the man dies?
Cruz, our political systems are different. That's all there is to it.
Cruz,
okay?
you want to give your phone number or something that people can find out more about this? Okay,
No.
y'all lost him.
Okay.
All right. Well, getting back to what Kenneth Williams was talking about, I don't really understand that last issue. We're pressed to determine what's going to happen in these elections. Kenneth's been working on voter registration. I have too. And the Alliance for Retired Americans is very interested, as well as Job with Justice, in voter registration and in getting everybody to vote. And at the same time, I see certain sophisticates, some very sophisticated people who say that don't vote. They say forget about voting. And I think that's not very sophisticated.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate position that some people take. If you look at Texas, for example, where we had Governor Rick Perry reelected, there was only 35% participation on the part of the electorate in Texas.
In other words, the people who were registered, only 35% of them voted at all.
Only 35% of the eligible voters voted in the election in Texas. And so if you look at that, the percentage of the population that supported him is only about 18%. So we're getting a government that's being driven by essentially a relatively small minority, and we can imagine a very different politics if we could get more people involved.
You say a minority is running things. Which minority is it?
Well, it's a minority of those who show up.
The ones who show up.
The ones who show up. And unfortunately, in this particular state, that tends to skew to the right, the particular minority that shows up.
Yep.
Now,
that's because they have more time. They're rich, and they have better cars, and they don't have to worry about rain and stuff like that.
Those are factors, sure. And it's harder for lower-income people to vote. We do elections on Tuesday, which makes it hard for somebody who has, say, a kind of relatively, say, a modest type of job to get off and go to vote.
But that's why we have 2 weeks of early voting.
Early voting, very good, Bonnie. That's exactly what I wanted to bring up. Early voting starts on October 22nd and continues through November 2nd. And one of the real priorities we want to push going forward is to get as many people out during the early voting period as possible. And so we want to do that.
The early voting, when is that going to start?
October 22nd. That's a Monday. Monday, October 22nd, it begins, and it runs for approximately 2 weeks to November 2nd.
Now, Bonnie Mathias, isn't your union doing something about this early voting period?
On October 22nd at 11 o'clock, we will hold a rally at the Records Building downtown. It was fun. We had, I guess in 2010, we probably had 100 people down there, all in our red shirts, for CWA. But everybody is welcome. And I encourage you to come down October 22nd. If you want to, you can park at the Union Hall. We'll take people down there. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Okay, October 22nd is the first day of early voting.
Yes.
And you're going to be at the Records Building, which is right next to the old Red Courthouse. Or if you have to have your GPS, it's on Commerce and Market, right?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Or at Main Street and Market.
Main Street and Market.
Easier to remember.
Yeah.
It's actually between Commerce and Main Street. And the Records Building is one of the places where you can vote early.
Yes.
Of course, during early voting, you can vote anywhere that's open.
In your county. That's right. If
Right.
you live in Tarrant County, you can go anywhere in Tarrant County. Same with
Any place
Denton
that's
County,
open.
any place that's open.
And the Records Building is one of the ones that's open,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Let's let Mike talk. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for calling KNON.
Yes, sir. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good, brother.
Okay. So what I'm going to do on this voting, I'm going to ask for an independent ballot. I think it's too much money in politics. I'm not voting neither one of Obama or
You don't like any of them, huh?
I ain't voting for now. I don't vote for Republicans. I'm not voting for Obama because he ain't done nothing in 4 years. He can't run on his rep, and he's slinging mud and anything that's
You call every week, don't you?
I want an independent ballot.
Okay.
Now, for real.
Thank you, Mike.
You
I'm
can
sure
have
you can get one. Just ask for an independent ballot when you go down there. Go ahead, Bonnie, with talking about the October 22nd rally.
Yes. This is a really a good time for all of us. There's a lot of people out there registering voters. Move On is registering thousands of voters. My top folks are out there walking the neighborhoods in Pleasant Grove and Oak Cliff, talking to people who are registered to vote who have either never voted or only voted once.
That's the Texas Organizing Project?
Yes, and there's hundreds of thousands of people like that in several counties here in Texas. It's amazing.
The Texas Alliance for Retired Americans has mostly been hitting homes where old folks are, rehabilitation centers, that sort of thing. Judy Bryant and Leah Witherspoon have done great. Now, over in Fort Worth, Clara Caldwell and the A. Philip Randolph Institute, they have literally registered hundreds per day, and they're going to every kind of facility that there is. I think they have a big event this afternoon where someplace where there's a whole bunch of people are coming, and some of the other radio stations are helping them out. This is mostly in the African American community, and that's one of the communities where registration is most critical, is it not, Kenneth?
Yes, certainly the African American community and also the Latino community. In fact, perhaps the Latino community even more so than the African American community, because the African American voter turnout is at a higher participation rate at this time than the Latino rate. And in Texas, in particular, the Latino rate will be decisive going forward because that's your fastest growing group. And so, I just want to make a note about eligibility to vote. Right now, we have a few more days. Registration for this election ends on October 9th. So you still have a little bit more time to get registered. You just have to be a U.S. citizen, a resident of the county. You need to be 18 years old. Or if you're 17 and you're going to be 18 by the election, you are also eligible under that circumstance. You can be... one thing people are not necessarily aware of, convicted felons can vote so long as they have completed their parole or probation.
As long as they're off paper.
Right.
There you go.
As long as they're off paper. There you go. That's right.
People are not clear about that. 'Cause
Right.
In some other states, convicted felons have just lost the right to vote.
In
That's
some
not
other
true of
states, right.
Texas.
It's not true of Texas. And another thing I want to make clear is that the voter ID laws will not be in effect in this election. They will not be in effect. So if someone tries to intimidate you or tell you that you have to have an ID, they're misleading you. The only thing you need is that voter registration card. It looks like a little yellow postcard, and that's all you'll need to vote in this election, which is the normal rule in Texas.
Yeah, but here's the big question, Kenneth. What if you're just not sure? What if you're not sure that you're registered? What if you haven't voted in several years and you're just not sure?
Just go ahead and fill out a voter registration card.
And the other option you have, there's a website. It's called www.votetexas.gov. That's www.votetexas.gov. You can go on this website, and by simply entering some of your personal information, such as your birthday and the zip code you live in, it will show you whether or not the system has you down as a registered voter.
And also check your name. Make sure your name is right on it.
Right, because your name is
address.
Exactly.
And your address, yeah.
Yes.
You have to vote where you live.
Yes.
Exactly. So that your voter registration should match your current address. Mm-hmm. And also for an issue affecting women is that a lot of times women will have a maiden name that will be different from their married name. And so ideally you want to have the voter registration match whatever name you're using now.
Mm-hmm. Are these people that run elections, like the election department here in Dallas County, Dalco Elections, are they pretty easy to get along with? I mean, can you call them up and check things and ask questions, that sort of thing?
I found them to be very supportive. Now, the Dalco representatives for Dallas County is Tony Pippin's Pool, and their number is 214-819-6300. And that's 214-819-6300. And you can get additional information from them about the details of exactly what the procedures are right now for this election in Dallas County.
Now, I don't know if there's still time or not, because it's getting pretty close next Tuesday.
It is getting close, but there is time, because let us say if you got registered today, right, you would be perfectly okay for the November election. Uh-huh. And there's a couple of different ways you could do it. If you do it with the so-called white voter registration form that you mail in, so long as it's postmarked by October 9th, you'd still be registered.
Okay.
There's also a green form which someone who's a voter registrar can get you registered, and they can give you, and there's a receipt on that form which you could also use, which would document that you're registered to vote. Okay. So you have both of those methods, and you still have the next 3 days to get that done.
But with a white card, you can do it all yourself. Now, how are you going to get a white card?
Well, you can get a white card either from that Dallas County Elections Office or someone who's a voter registrar. You can also online print out the equivalent form and mail that in that way. If you go on that same website, there's a place where you can press a button to print out the form, fill it out, and mail that in. You can't directly register online in Texas. So,
but you can get the card.
But you can get the card from the website. Yes.
And if you need help registering to vote, I'll bet you can call Move On. I'll bet you can call the top office or Dalco Elections. You can call all of them.
Let's give out all those phone numbers after we take a break. All right. Okay. Be right back.
Let me find out what number I should give out.
To work this morning, something seemed kind of strange. My body door was missing. There's a machine.
They're back. This is Weird Warren Harris, host of the Sonic Burrito Radio Show, and you've been asking us when the Red Elvises would be back. Well, I'm here to tell you, set your calendar, save the date, tattoo it on your forehead. Saturday, October 13th. At the world-famous Sons of Herman Hall, 3414 Elm Street in Dallas. It's been 2 years since they've done a KNON benefit for the Sonic Burrito Show, so get your tickets now at Bill's Records, Forever Young in Grand Prairie, and at KNON.org. Also, there's going to be a free dinner from La Victoria Restaurant. So come on down. It's the return of the Red Elvises at the internationally famous Sons of Herman Hall. This is a KNON benefit.
KNON and Beyond Bows and Arrows' 4th ever benefit powwow is coming Saturday, October 6th. It's a free admission powwow with raffles, auctions, Indian food, arts and crafts, as well as raffle dances and spot dances. Vendor space is available. The 4th ever KNON Benefit Powwow takes place at Four Winds Park, located at 5380 East Highway 199 in Springtown, Texas. MCs for the powwow will be KNON's own Albert Oakcrow and Harold Rogers. All drums and princesses are welcome. Vendor setup is at noon. Gourd dance starts at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Supper break 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and the intertribal dancing from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. For vendor space or more information on the powwow, call Kathy Oldcrow at 214-704-7447. Once again, 214-704-7447. Come experience a traditional old-style benefit powwow Saturday, October 6th.
And we're back on the air. This is the Workers' Beat. I'm Gene Lantz. 972-647-1893 is the number. I'm talking with Kenneth Williams, and of course Bonnie Mathias is here from CWA 6215. Kenneth has been registering voters. Couple of announcements. Sister Judy Bryant, the field organizer for the Texas Alliance for Retired Americans, sends word of an action taking place next Wednesday, October the 10th. The Texas Alliance for Retired Americans is holding an accountability rally in front of Congressman Jeb Hensarling's office at 10 a.m. to further emphasize his support of the Ryan budget, cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and his repeated votes to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Congressman Hensarling's office is at 6510 Abrams Road, Dallas, 75231. It's the Comerica Bank building at Abrams and Larmonda. The rally is called Seniors Get the Crumbs and will include a symbolic bake sale to raise money for our children and grandchildren's retirement funds. So that's Wednesday at 10 o'clock, Congressman Hensarling's office at 6510 Abrams Road. I want to point out that the American Federation of Teachers, I guess Judy Bryant reminded me of this because she's a retired teacher. The American Federation of Teachers did a great action on Tuesday or Wednesday night last week. I went down to help them. They did personal letter writing to all their members, and we're sending out, I think, about 5,000 or more letters just to people, just so they'll get a little personal note from the Alliance for Retired from the Alliance AFT to remind them about how important this election is. So they're doing great. And I also heard last week they had the meeting of the Texas AFL-CIO Executive Board, and they were there. The Texas Federation of Teachers was there, and they say they are really getting ready for a major organizing drive. So we're not just going to be helping Walmart organize over the next period. We're going to be helping teachers organize and school employees because they're very, very critical. And as you know, they are under attack all over the United States. So join with us and help us with Walmart and help us with the teachers and help us with whoever else is going to be organizing because it's critical. The Walmart meeting will be at 1311 East Center Park Boulevard at 7:45 in the morning. I hope they have some coffee. October the 9th, 7:45 in DeSoto at 1311 East Center Park Boulevard. And for information on helping Walmart, you can call Kevin Blair on his cell phone, 859-322-8196. Or just get in touch with me on labordallas.org, and I'll pass you on to Kevin. labordallas.org, of course, is my website. Now, getting back to the criticalness of this election and the work to organize and get people ready to vote. Kenneth Williams.
Okay, one thing I would like to tell a little story about what has happened in terms of the current administration in line of what one of the callers mentioned. The other day, I ride the DART train to go to work, and one day I was looking on the DART website, and I happened to notice a note in there about the Recovery Act. The Recovery Act was also known as the stimulus bill.
Okay.
And come to find out that the stimulus bill, one of the things it did for us right here in Dallas is it provided $141 million that was used to build both the Green Line and the Orange Line. Right
Is that
here, right here in Dallas. And this is the kind of thing that, people aren't necessarily generally aware.
Right.
But right here in Dallas, that's something that we've benefited on. I was actually riding that train for 2 years before I knew that the stimulus money had paid for it.
That's
and I've been an Obama supporter. But there are all kind of things like that have been accomplished that are below the radar, but would really make a difference.
Yep.
And if that had not been passed, if someone else with a different politics had been in charge, we would not have had the funding for that. Another note, a personal note of something that this has done for me, I've been able to put my children on my health insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. They are covered because of that. They work, but on the jobs they work on, they wouldn't be able to afford the insurance themselves out of the pay that they're making.
Yeah,
but I
young
can put
people
them on
have a hard time getting insurance.
I can put them on my insurance. This is the difference. These are the kind of differences that are being made. So when people tell you, it doesn't make any difference, they all do the same thing, that's not true.
Right.
They ought to ask Kenneth Williams, right?
There you go, yes.
Kenneth, you couldn't tell from the debates, I think, that we just saw one debate. You couldn't really tell what's at stake in this election.
Well, you couldn't tell all of the things that are at stake, but we have the future, whether or not we're going to educate the next generation of children, whether or not we're going to start investing in fixing our infrastructure. See, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, we need about $2 trillion worth of work. That's trillion with a T, in order to fix our infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Right now, we have a group of people who are telling you the priority is to cut government spending, to cut taxes and this sort of thing. But when you look at the fact that the infrastructure is going to affect the grandchildren at least as much as the debt, I would say more so, because if I'm going forward 20 years in the future and I need to ride on the highway and I don't know if the highway is going to be safe or if it's going to collapse and I end up falling in the river, like as actually happened to people up in Minnesota just a couple of years ago, those are the kind of differences that we're deciding right now. And these are going to be very different paths. And for most regular people who have to get up in the morning and go to a job, the future is not going to be better if we take the path that the Republicans are talking about, the path of austerity. That's not going to help most people. It's going to help people who already have a lot of money. But if you need to go to a job, cutting your health care, cutting your Social Security, cutting infrastructure, laying off teachers, that's not going to make your life better.
Okay, and I want to add something from the point of view of working people that's very, very, very important. Now, almost everybody that we have come on this program brings up the Texas right to work law. It's a blot on humankind. It is a terrible, terrible thing that the state of Texas did to its working people to make it possible for everybody to be a scab and not be a union member, not help the union. So I want to make it clear that there are two candidates running for president and two political parties running for power in this thing. And one of the political parties and one of the candidates has come out very definitively for a national right-to-work law. In other words, every state, whether they wanted it or not, would have to take a right-to-work law, which would make scabs of all Americans. So that's a clear difference, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. And one thing people need to pay attention to, the states that are right-to-work laws almost uniformly have a lower standard of living than the states that permit unions. There's a strong correlation there. You compare Massachusetts to Mississippi, it's a big difference.
Texas is, we call it the right to work for less, which is so true. And something else that I just heard, Gene, and maybe you can confirm this, I just heard that Walmart has dropped workers' compensation coverage in Texas, which is legal. They don't have to have it. They can be self-insured.
Texas is the only state in the union where companies don't have to carry workers' comp. We need to have more programs on workers' comp because it is so disgraceful in this state where employers don't even have to have coverage for people who get hurt on the job. And they just made it much, much worse than that. In the Texas Supreme Court, they just decided that not only can a company take bad actions against their workers, do things against their workers on workers' comp issues, but they can even do it on purpose. They can do it with malevolence and on purpose.
And get away with it.
And in conspiracy and premeditated. And the Texas Supreme Court said, "Oh, that's okay.
That's okay.
You guys go ahead."
So Walmart, here we have the largest employer in the world, and they have decided to take the cost-cutting measure to not cover their employees in Texas with workers' comp insurance. And, when you apply for a job at Walmart, a part-time job, they give you the phone numbers to call for public assistance because they're not going to pay you enough to actually live. So we want you to come to work, and so here's the number for WIC and
how to get food stamps
and all that stuff.
Because they're not going to pay you, and they're not going to give you enough hours. That's a terrible thing about Walmart. It's one of the many terrible things. We've had a couple of times on the Workers' Beat recently, and a lot of times over the years, we've had people from Walmart come on and talk about their jobs, and it's pretty scary. But I think the main question before everybody else is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about the conditions of the American working people being pushed backwards, not only on the job by unscrupulous employers, but also in politics? And don't forget that those unscrupulous employers are funding the candidates, the anti-worker candidates, and they're very, very, very much involved in this election. So let's see what Rick says. Good morning, Rick. Thanks for calling us.
Yeah, I used to be a union member. I used to in Arkansas. I used to work over there. And I had a bad experience with them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm because I worked and I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do, and I did it too good. And no, I'm not lying to you. I did it too good.
I understand.
And no, they didn't like that. So I mean, I was. They would always talk bad about me and everything like that. So, I mean, and as far as your education on you can't get rid of union members.
No, you can't.
You get a teacher who doesn't do her job, his or her job, and you can't get rid of that teacher because we have to. You guys, y'all talk about the education and all this, but
Rick,
yeah,
you're mistaken. Just so I'm a union member. Have been for 20 years. I'm the vice president of a local, and a lot of people have that misconception that the union just protects bad employees. We protect all employees, okay? It doesn't matter what you do or what you don't do. We try to protect all employees. The company or the school district, whichever, and the union want the same thing. They want good employees because it's much easier for all of us to do our jobs if we are all good employees. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Well, you have to protect all the members.
That's it. Every single member.
I used to have a problem on the job, and I think this might be something that Rick's talking about. I was put out because we were supposed to take breaks in the machine shop where I worked, and there was this guy who was really a good guy and really a union supporter, and he just would not take his breaks. He just didn't want to take a break. And I filed on him.
Good.
I went to the union steward and said, look, if he's not going to take his break, if he's going to be running his machine and making ear-splitting noise and stuff like that, and we've got our earplugs out because we're sitting and taking our break and having our coffee and talking, he's liable to injure us. So I actually went to the union steward and said, this guy's got to start taking his breaks like everybody else.
Well, and you look at it.
Rick might not have liked that, and I'm sure the guy that I filed on didn't like it.
He probably didn't either. But you know what? We have a labor agreement, a contract. The company can't break it, and that means the union members can't break it either.
Right, not supposed to.
Right. So you got a 15-minute break or a 30-minute break or whatever built into that contract. Everybody takes a break. That way you don't have somebody, because he's actually driving up the production numbers.
Yeah, he is driving up the production numbers, which is all right. It don't matter, but it was a safety concern.
Absolutely.
These machines make an awful lot of noise, and you're supposed to be wearing your earplugs and your safety glasses and all that stuff, which you take all that off during break.
To have a break.
Thinking it's okay. But, it just occurred to me that most of our radio listeners won't even know what we're talking about, because most of our radio listeners don't have a union and never get a break, because Texas does not have a law that says you have to get a break. People think it does, but they don't. Texas does not require you to get a break. And so a break, for those of you who don't know, is a cessation of work where you take a little bit of time off, and just in case you never heard of this, and you go and get a cup of coffee or a drink of water or go to the bathroom or something.
Yep.
And
that's
something that union people get.
That's right.
That you may not have heard of before. But getting back to the elections, which is what we brought Kenneth up here about, the other side, and specifically Walmart.
I've worked in a lot of non-union shops, and I've been in a union shop for the last 20 years, and I can't tell you the difference. It's incredible.
The difference is incredible. In favor of increasing the minimum wage. They're not in favor of the candidates who are in favor of helping people organize and get unionized and that sort of thing. Walmart is definitely, the Walmart family and the riches of their whole structure are against us in the electoral sphere. Now, what are we going to do about it? That's what Kenneth Williams is here to talk about. What are we going to do, Kenneth?
Well, I think definitely you want to have a large voter turnout. One of the things we notice about this particular election, and you've probably heard this on the news, there's these voter ID laws, or what they really are, voter suppression laws. Mm-hmm. One of the ways that the people who are protecting the status quo are trying to protect themselves is by trying to make it harder to vote.
Yes, they are.
Let's have fewer people voting. Let's have fewer early voting days. Let's make you go jump through a bunch of hoops and go get a bunch of documentation that, for a person with low income, is difficult to get. If you have to go out and spend, say, $50 to go get a birth certificate so that you can prove to get a piece of ID that you only use once every 2 years or so to vote, that's a major expense for someone that's living on a modest income. And the people who came up with these laws, they know that. They analyzed it, and they're trying very deliberately to reduce the number of people to vote. Now,
and it's not just anybody. They're not across the board.
Right.
They're not just saying we want everybody to stop voting. They only want us to stop voting.
Right. Well, let's take the Texas law, which I want to remind you is not in effect for this election. But the way the law was written, if you have a concealed carry permit, that's good. That's good ID for voting under that law. If you're a college student. If you're a college student, even though you may have an ID with your picture on it, that's no good under the law. Now, why do you come up with these kind of distinctions? It's not because you're trying to prevent voter fraud. It's because you're picking your voters. You've done a study, and you found that college students, they may vote for President Obama, and people with concealed carry permits, they're going to vote for Mitt Romney. That's the reason why these laws are written the way they're written. They're very well thought out.
And most of us poor people actually can't afford to go out and get a gun license. And a gun, it costs, I don't know what a gun costs, but the license is
well, the gun alone, we're out of the range of the average person if they're buying a legal firearm.
Well, there you go. It's all about that legal part.
Right.
There was a while there when it looked like the voter ID bill was going to pass. There was a while there that I was trying to organize some retirees to arm themselves and come on out and do a press conference with weapons. But we'll be right back.
Tell you all a story that's close to me. A worker who's leaning on a bended knee. Soiled and tattered in search of relief.
Medicare and Medicaid recipients may qualify for additional services including dental, vision, and transportation through DFW Medicare Health Benefits. These plans also cover dentures and partials. For more information, 214-501-7330. That's 214-501-7330. Agents are available from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Vision, dentures, partials, and transportation may be available to recipients of Medicare and Medicaid through DFW Medicare Health Benefits at 214-501-7330.
The
Second annual KNON Zydeco Halloween Fey Voodoo Party is coming to Poor David's Pub on Saturday, October 27th, starring the fabulous Rosie Ledette for one night only. That's right, Rosie Ledette returns to entertain all you crazy Cajun and Zydeco music lovers on Saturday, October 27th. Opening the show will be JB and the Zydeco Posse. Doors will be at 7. This is Jim Bro of Monday's Cajun Zydeco Music Party, and I will be your host. The Alligator Cafe will be serving up a delicious dinner, including Cajun pasta Orleans, shrimp etouffee, red beans and rice, and bread pudding for dessert. Yum. And of course, there will be a costume contest for the scariest, funniest, and most Mardi Gras costumes. Tickets are available now at knon.org, Forever Young Records, and Bill's Records in Dallas. That's the second annual Zydeco Halloween Fey Voodoo starring Rosie Ledette and JB and the Zydeco Posse on Saturday, October 27th at Poor David's Pub, located at 1313 South Lamar in Dallas, for a night of scary good fun.
Blue Monday, how I hate Blue Monday. I love that song. 972-647-1893 is the number if you want to call the Workers' Beat. I want to give a shout out to the Communication Workers of America because they won a court victory, a very big, important court victory. The court has ruled that American Airlines agents will be able to hold their election. Yay! Thank goodness. It's 10,000 of them or so, isn't it, Bonnie?
Yes.
And CWA has been trying for years, I think 15 years,
yes, sir,
for them to have a chance to vote on whether or not they want to have a union.
That's right.
And we're not saying that they have to go one way or the other, but
just let them vote.
But yeah, give them a chance. And the first court said that they could not vote.
Right.
They said they could not vote. They went along with management on that one.
Yep.
Then the appeals court. Thank goodness the union had enough money to carry this on to an appeal.
Yeah.
The appeals court overturned that and said that the American Airlines agents will finally get their vote. Now, they don't have the time set for this, do they?
And, you know, American Airlines has been doing their share of union busting with these folks to really try to keep these folks from forming a union. They have allowed almost a majority of the ticket agents to actually work from home.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, you're not in the workplace. How easy is it for you to just blow off the union thing?
So you don't tend to get organized.
Right.
Here's what the CWA said, Communication Workers of America said. The same American Airlines executives who took the airline into bankruptcy with $4 billion in the bank, which now has grown to $8 billion, have also spent millions trying to stop workers from exercising their democratic rights. But the passenger service agents now look forward to the National Mediation Board setting a new election date as soon as possible. And we hope to announce it right here on the Workers' Beat.
We sure do. That's a very exciting. I went over to the federal court in Fort Worth when we were outside protesting and asking the court to vote in our favor. Mm-hmm. And of course, later on that day, he ruled against us, and it was really quite a blow. There was about 50 or 60 of us out there, and a lot of the agents, a lot of CWA folks from all over North Texas, along with Claude Cummings, our district VP, and it was it's tough. That's like a kick in the stomach, you know, when you think you're gonna get it. And Mike Lavolo, who's been working on this for 15 years.
He was a great guy, Mike Lavolo.
Yes, I'll bet he is just he's so happy today that they're actually going to get to vote. That is so awesome.
In the meantime, Communication Workers of America in the Southeast, who work for AT&T, voted down a 3-year contract that would have covered more than 22,000 workers in Alabama, Florida, etc. This is the southeastern section of the AT&T. Now, Bonnie, you work for AT&T, and a lot of people here are watching the AT&T negotiations, but you're not in negotiations right now, are you?
No, sir. Our negotiations will start next year. We have 2 contracts with AT&T that will expire next year. Actually, 3. We have internet services, the telephone company, which is the core contract, and then Yellow Pages, which is not owned by AT&T any longer, also will go into bargaining late next year.
We'll be watching that because it's going to have a profound effect on what kind of deal people have here in North Texas.
That's right.
Because CWA 6215 in Dallas and CWA 6201 in Tarrant County both work for AT&T contracts.
Yes, and we have right at 9,000, 10,000 members.
How come it is that CWA is working so hard on getting people registered and getting people to vote?
Because we understand the correlation between politics and labor. You know, I didn't used to be involved in politics until I realized it touches every facet of your life, from taxes at the grocery store to garbage on the corner to whether or not you have the right to organize and form a union. And we have to we are trying to educate people every day to help them to understand how important their vote is.
Right.
People died to get women died. Women were put into jails and beat and urinated on and horrible.
Had their clothes ripped off and had their pictures taken by the Dallas Morning News.
Yes, and all because all they wanted to do was vote. You folks, we have to understand, this all didn't happen somewhere else. This happened here in Dallas. They did not want to allow black folks to vote.
They sure didn't.
Brown folks to vote, and women. This place, they wanted to be back to the good old boy Southern plantation.
Stone Age.
There you go, where Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble ran the thing.
So we brought Kenneth Williams in today to talk about voter registration and the importance of getting out to vote on this election. Kenneth, during the break you brought up some issues about voter fraud, which is some people are bringing this up as often as they can.
Well, one of the ironies, the people who are promoting the voter suppression laws say they wanted to do it to prevent voter fraud. But what a news story that came to light just over the past week is that in 5 states in which the Republicans had hired a company which, in order to register people to vote, this company was found to be involved in voter fraud. They were taking voter registration forms from Democrats and simply throwing them away and only keeping the voter registration forms they had from Republicans. And that's a company they hired. They had to stop their voter registration drives in all 5 of those states because this company has been revealed to be an unsavory type of operation.
Is anybody going to go to jail over this?
We'll have to see. At this time, I haven't heard of anything specific involving a prosecution, but it just shows you just how false the whole narrative is that we need to have voter IDs to prevent fraud. That's not where the fraud's coming from. It's coming from the people who are advocating the voter suppression laws.
Yeah, that's right. The fraud, it's like in workers' comp. When the company does the fraud, which is what most workers' comp fraud comes from the companies, and they tend to get away with it. And then when one worker does something wrong, that hits the front page of the papers. And it's the same with voter fraud. If the guy who is accused of voter fraud happens to be a minority, and I've seen this in Dallas ever since I've been here, since 1978. Every time we have a prominent spokesperson from the minority community, the federal government finds something to bring them down, and oftentimes they'll accuse them of voter fraud. And they might only find one case, where somebody voted from the wrong county or something like that, and which sometimes could be an innocent mistake, but it may have been voter fraud. I don't know. But people they get this major prosecution for that.
Well, in Pennsylvania, where one of those laws was recently blocked by court decision, they had admitted, the people advocating the voter ID laws admitted they had no history, as in zero, of in-person voter fraud. They admitted it, and they still wanted the law passed.
Not only that, but there was a state representative in Pennsylvania who actually bragged about it and said that we are going to get Mitt Romney elected because of our voter ID law. He said that in public.
Oops.
So the voter suppression laws, if nothing else would convince you to get out and get active in this election, I would hope that you would be convinced by the simple knowledge that a lot of people with big money do not want you to vote.
That's right.
They are telling you, don't vote.
They want you to stay home.
Absolutely. And they're going to make it as hard as they can. They actually pass these laws in 20-something states. Voter ID laws.
Purging. They were trying to purge
laws
the
to
rolls.
make it harder to register, shorter early voting times, and then purging. Actually, they wrote people and said, "Hello, are you dead?" Because if you don't reply to this, we're taking you off the voter list. So you have to actually tell them that I'm not dead. You had to respond to their letter in order to stay off the list, and that's still pending. All of these things here in Texas, almost all of them were stopped by federal courts. Thank goodness for the federal courts, because we would never have had any progress in civil rights without the federal courts. Go ahead, Kenneth.
And which brings us to one of the things that are really a major stake for the next administration is the Supreme Court and the federal courts in general. The president appoints the federal judges. If you get a president who thinks, as Mitt Romney has indicated, that Antonin Scalia and Judge Clarence Thomas are his ideal Supreme Court judges, what that's going to mean is if you care about, say, your rights as women, in the Republican platform, there's a provision in there that is going to require a woman who is a rape victim to have the rapist's baby. Now, the kind of people we're talking about, like Antonin Scalia and Clarence Thomas, they're going to uphold those kind of laws.
That's right.
If you want to have to be able to make your own, say, reproductive choices, if you want as workers to be able to organize, these kinds of things, the only way you're going to protect that is to make sure we don't have the White House being captured by people who support these extreme right-wing positions.
Okay, and I want to point out, too, that we talked a lot about voter registration and fairness at the election, but we forgot to mention the League of Women Voters.
Oh,
what a great organization that is. And they are going to come out with their voters' guides, but I don't think they're going to be ready till October 15th.
Oh, really?
I wish we had them now. You can order them from the League of Women Voters. Also, the Coalition of Labor Union Women has posted an informative website that discusses campaign issues that are important to women across the United States. And I'm going to give you the URL for that website. It's http://nwlc.org/voter-ed. NWLC, I guess, is National Women's Labor Coalition. Anyway, it's nwlc.org, and then you go to voter ed part of that, and they'll be posting information particularly about women. Bonnie, before we came in this morning, you were saying that this election makes all the difference in the world to women.
Absolutely. There's pro-life and then there's pro-birth, okay? I think that women should have a choice to have this is our bodies after all. I mean, the government doesn't have any business telling us what we can and cannot do with our own bodies. I don't see the government telling guys what they can and cannot do. It's very important that we maintain our rights as women. This Affordable Care Act has allowed women all over this country to get preventive care for the first time at no charge. This is so important. Planned Parenthood is one of the most important women's organizations in this country. They have helped more women find early detection.
Just about as far as women in politics goes, what about Lilly Ledbetter?
Oh my gosh, Lilly Ledbetter. This poor woman, she worked for years and years and years and found out at the end of her career that all of her male co-workers were making a bunch more money than her.
Yeah, but the president took a stand on that. One of the first things he did, I think it was actually the first thing he did.
That's right.
Was uphold the Lilly Ledbetter Act
for
equal play for women. So the women are critical in this election. I want to hail the good news from yesterday that the unemployment rate went down to 7.8%, which is not great, but it's a lot better than it was,
Yep.
and it shows a good trend, so that's good. Also, because the joblessness in Texas has tipped upwards, Texans are eligible for an extra 9 weeks of unemployment insurance under federal rules, the Houston Chronicle says. The new calculation may help 32,000 Texans who have been unemployed over a long term. So the extra 8 weeks is kicked in, the extra 9 weeks is kicked in for unemployment in Texas.
Man, that's
so that's
great.
good, and it's going to have a big effect on the election. But Kenneth, we're coming close to the end of the hour, and I want to give you a good chance to tell people how to register, why they should register, or whatever you'd like to add.
Okay, the way to get registered is you can go on the website www.votetexas.gov, and that will allow you to get the form that you can mail in. You still have until October 9th to mail it in. You want to get the postmark by October 9th. The other way, if you can contact your county election office. I have the one for Dallas, but that website will also show you the election offices for other counties in Texas. The one in Dallas is their number is 214-819-6300. You can also, if you have contact with a voter registrar, there's a green form that you can fill out that basically immediately registers you. They leave you with receipt, and you can use that to go vote. And the other thing I want people to focus on now is early voting, which starts on October 22nd and runs through November 2nd. What I encourage people to do is to contact, if you're already registered to vote and you're ready to vote, talk to your friends, talk to your relatives, your brother, your sister, your cousin, call everybody you know, get other people involved. If you know an elderly person, make a plan to go say pick them up and take them so they can do early voting more easily. We need to all come together in order to maximize voter turnout, because that's the way we're going to challenge this kind of corporate power that we see in this country.
And fight back against the big money.
Yes.
Yes.
We have never seen the amounts of millions of dollars being poured into buying the American election system. The only defense that ordinary people have is just what Kenneth is saying. Get registered, get out and vote early. And, of course, if you're old like me, vote by mail.
There you
Voting
go.
by mail is great, and you have until October 29th to make your request for a ballot by mail, which you get this from the same people with all the same phone numbers that Kenneth's been giving out. I want to give out the number for the Texas Secretary of State because that's the ultimate authority, and they can do everything for you that needs to be done in whatever county you're in. The phone number for the Texas Secretary of State is 1-800-252-VOTE. It's 252-8683, but the way to remember it is it's 800-252-VOTE. So don't just lay down and take it. You're going to get treated very badly in this country if you don't stand up for yourself and start by voting. I'm not saying that voting is the only thing you should be doing, but I'm saying it's a darn good start.
Sure
you can come out to the peace rally today at Mockingbird and Highway 75, the Mockingbird train station. They're going to meet there at 3 o'clock because this turns out this is the 11th anniversary of the Afghanistan War.
That's right.
So
That's
today
right.
at 3 o'clock, you can also go to Judy Bryant's picket at Jeb Henserling's office on next Wednesday. You can come to the Walmart meeting at 1311 East Center Park Boulevard in DeSoto at 7:45 in the morning. Now that's kind of a test, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you really care enough to get up early?
I'll be there.
7:45. Come and see Bonnie and me in DeSoto on Tuesday morning at 7:45 in the morning.
And if you need help to vote, registering to vote, call the top office, Texas Organizing Project, at 214-586-0867. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, Kenneth, for being here.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Summer, for running things.
Yes.
And we'll be back next Saturday. Bye.
Yes.
You're listening to KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas, the voice of the people, voted best radio station for music 2 years in a row by the Dallas Observer.
Did you know that KNON podcasts all of its local talk shows? KNON has local talk each show covering your community in its own unique way. So if you missed one of our great morning talk shows, you can go back and listen to it online. We keep the shows for 2 months so you can hear everything you have been missing out on. Visit KNON.org for more information about the KNON Morning Talk Shows podcast. Also available on iTunes.